Some unknown thousands of years before the events of the Star Wars films, an energy field known as the Force comes into existence on a mysterious planet known as the Wellspring of Life. Three beings known as the Father, the Daughter, and the Son are all born as well. The Daughter embodies the light side of the Force, the Son embodies the dark, and the Father keeps their power in check in the realm of Mortis. Sentient beings evolve and spread throughout the galaxy. The planet Batuu becomes a central hub at the crossroads of many sub-light-speed trade routes. However, the development of hyperspace technology allows for the further exploration and colonization of the galaxy, leaving the planet a relic of the past. A number of supernovas send huge planetary masses across a large area of the galaxy. The debris demolishes entire systems, sparks more supernovas, and in general puts an end to hyperspace charting and travel in what becomes known as the unknown regions. The literal or figurative Prime Jedi is born, and Force-sensitive creatures gather on the planet Ahch-To with the purpose of starting the Jedi Order. They construct a temple and a village on one of the islands there. The Old Republic is founded, and the Jedi dedicate themselves to the preservation of peace and justice among its citizens. They spread their influence to more worlds, including Ilum and Jedha. Both planets become sacred to the Jedi as major sources of kyber crystals used in the construction of their lightsabers. An unidentified rogue Jedi splits from the Order, taking with him a number of followers, sparking the 100-Year Darkness and the creation of the Sith Order. The Sith are defeated and retreat to the planet Moraband. Another splinter group of the Jedi, called the Ordu Espectu, begins researching the secrets of immortality. The Jedi oppose their quest, so the Ordu desperately sends their fortress through hyperspace to an unknown location where it is lost. A disturbed artist named Momin is discovered to be Force-sensitive and trained by the Sith Lady Shah. He eventually kills her, creates a superweapon, and attacks the planet Mustafar. The Jedi thwart the attack and take Momin's helmet for safekeeping. Perhaps in that very same attack, Mustafar's Force-sensitive ruler, Lady Corvax, loses her husband. She attempts to bring him back to life through the use of a relic known as the Bright Star. The ritual fails and throws the planet into unbalanced, lava-covered chaos. The Sith Empire spreads. The Darkside users briefly control the galaxy and build a shrine on the planet Coruscant. 1,000 years later, Jedi and Republic forces successfully drive their Sith enemies away. Attempting to remove Darkside energies from the planet, 4 Jedi Masters build a new Jedi temple on top of the Sith shrine. In the chaos of the unknown regions, a species called the Chiss develop an area of space to call their own, the Chiss Ascendancy. A rival species launches a great assault on the Chiss, driving them back to their home planet, Chilla. There, the Chiss unleash a secret weapon known as Starflash, which obliterates the enemy fleet thanks to the sacrifice of 20 Chiss members of the Myth family. The Myth are made into a ruling family of the Chiss Ascendancy, but the activation of Starflash dims Chilla's sun, forcing the Chiss people to move underground to survive. Back in the known galaxy, the Jedi encounter a warrior people known as Mandalorians. Fearful of the Jedi's mystical powers and the Force, the Mandalorians develop new technology to combat them on equal ground, and the Mandalorian Wars begin. The final battle takes place on Mandalore, the heart of the Mandalorian Empire. Their homeworld is devastated and scorched into a lifeless desert. The Sith Lord Darth Tanis constructs a temple on the planet Malachor, and at its heart is a superweapon powered by a massive kyber crystal. The Jedi attack the temple, and in the Great Scourge of Malachor, the superweapon is fired, petrifying nearly all participants in the battle. Generations after the end of the Mandalorian Wars, the Jedi accept a Mandalorian named Tar Vizsla into their ranks. He creates a unique lightsaber called the Darksaber, and after his death, it is stored in the Jedi Temple. The Sith Wars come to an end around this same time. The final confrontation is again on Coruscant. The Mandalorians, possibly in league with the Sith, use the opportunity to infiltrate the Jedi Temple and reclaim Tar Vizsla's Darksaber. The Sith are defeated, leaving Darth Bane as the sole survivor. Realizing that his peers' lust for power and infighting were a key element in their downfall, he takes on a single apprentice and begins the Rule of Two. Living in secret, the Sith plan to grow more powerful not only in the Force, but politically as well, until they are able to orchestrate the downfall of the Jedi and the return of the Sith Empire. As a result of the Sith Wars, the Old Republic collapses and is reformed into the Galactic Republic. Believing the Sith to be extinct, the Jedi Order rebuilds and the galaxy experiences centuries of peace. This era of tranquility becomes known as the High Republic, but darkness still lingers. On the planet Dalna, a group of Jedi respond to a call for help, but the battle goes poorly and several Dalnans are killed in what they come to call the Night of Sorrow. On the planet Alaris Prime, two Jedi Padawans named Ty Yorick and Cleus Terradine sneak into a shrine of the Yallo Fellowship, a sect of dark side users. Inside, Cleus is possessed and attacks Ty, who accidentally kills him in self-defense. She flees the Jedi Order in fear of retribution. Chancellor Lina So wishes to expand Republic borders into the Outer Rim. She plans to bring prosperity to new systems from a state-of-the-art space station called Starlight Beacon. A group of marauders called the Nile resist the spread of the government. They are able to weaponize hyperspace thanks to a Force-sensitive hostage they have named Mari Santeca, who uses the Force to find unique paths through the galaxy. The Nile engineer the destruction of a Republic transport ship. Its debris exits hyperspace across the galaxy at terrible speeds, threatening the lives of many Outer Rim citizens. The Jedi and the Republic work together to save as many as they can. The debris is eventually contained, but the event comes to be known as the Great Disaster. The Nile, led by Marchion Ro, use the chaos to their advantage, taking hostages for ransom, including a Jedi Master named Loden Greatstorm. They bomb a Republic transport, which strands Jedi Knight Vernestra Ro, her Padawan Imri, and a young genius named Avon Staros on a nearby planet until they can be rescued. A group of Jedi Padawans under the tutelage of a Jedi Grandmaster named Yoda find themselves thrust into the action as well, saving the residents of the planet Trimant 4, home of a group called the Elders of the Path, who believe connection with the Force is immoral. There, the Jedi discover a young Force-sensitive girl named Zine, who is taken in by the Order. Marchion Ro abducts an elder named Tromac, who leads him to a secret artifact that will allow him to control a mysterious and powerful weapon against the Jedi. Yoda heads after them alone to learn more. Hyperlanes are closed for safety while the disaster is dealt with. A group of Jedi and civilians wind up stranded at an ancient and forgotten space station where they unwittingly release another threat to the galaxy, the Drengir. These sentient, carnivorous plants reawaken and begin to spread across the galaxy. The Nile bring Drengir spores to several Outer Rim planets to keep the Jedi occupied. On the planet Banshee, a new kind of Drengir appears that is able to turn people into wood, but the Jedi Knight Lily Toraasi and her friends are able to stop them. As the Jedi investigate the Drengir, they enter the territory of the Hutt clans, who are also combating the creatures. An alliance is made with Miarga the Hutt. A Hutt named Jabba attempts to sabotage the tenuous peace, but the Padawan students of Yoda are able to stop him in time. With Miarga's help, the Drengir homeworld is found and their great progenitor is contained, putting all the other Drengir in the galaxy back into a deep slumber. Underestimating the Nile threat, Chancellor So holds a Republic fair on the planet Valo, inviting citizens from the Outer Rim to share their cultures with one another. The Nile mounts a massive strike against the fair. Ty Yorick, who has become a saber for hire, happens to be on the planet and fights alongside the Jedi once again. Defending against the Nile is difficult until a young Padawan named Ram teams up with Zine and another Padawan named Lula to restore communications. Although the Jedi fight bravely, the attack on the Republic fair is devastating. The Jedi mount a counter-assault on a Nile base where Loden Greatstorm is being held. The Nile retreat and Loden is rescued, but Marchion Ro unleashes his living weapon, which inexplicably turns Loden to dust. The Jedi investigator Emmerich Kafdor is assigned to learn more about Loden's murder, and he teams up with a private eye named Cyan Holt. Marchion travels to a mysterious planet, sacrificing many Nile lives to reach it, but there he is able to gather more of the nameless creatures. Vernestra and Imri team up with the Padawan Wreath Silas to investigate reports that the Nile are building a space station called the Gravity's Heart that can disrupt the use of hyperspace. They are helped by a cargo pilot named Silvestri Yarrow, whose mother, Chansey, is the scientist overseeing the project. On board, Vernestra meets Mari Santeca, who gives the Jedi one final hyperspace path before passing away. The Jedi and the Republic destroy the Gravity's Heart. The Padawan Ram joins Lula, Zine, and the other Padawans as they travel to thwart Nile attacks on Takodana. With the help of Maz Kanata, the Nile are defeated, but the Jedi Temple on the planet is destroyed. One of Marchion Ro's top lieutenants, Lorna D, is captured by the Republic. They mistakenly come to believe that she is the leader of the Nile and pursue her across the galaxy when she escapes custody. The Jedi Master Avar Kriss becomes obsessed with her capture. She sends the Jedi Knight Keeve Trennis undercover within Nile ranks, but she is discovered when she attempts and fails to save the life of a captured Miarga the Hutt. Keeve is exposed to the Nile's weapon, but is saved by Avar. Avon Staros is kidnapped by the Nile and brought to Dalna. She is forced to damage tectonic activity on the planet as a distraction for something bigger the Marauders have planned. She does what she can to sabotage their efforts and is eventually saved by Vernestra and Imri, but Dalna suffers a major natural disaster at the hands of the Nile. To offer relief, the Jedi tow Starlight Beacon through hyperspace thanks to the help of a luxury starliner called the Halcyon. The Nile attack Banshee and kill Lily's Padawan, Kirin. Rather than let the temple fall into enemy hands, Lily has it destroyed and retreats with all the surviving Jedi and settlers. Lula is given command of a mission to the planet Dalhar Hyde, where she, Zine, and the other Padawans successfully capture a Nile leader and former friend of Zine's named Crix. Lula is offered knighthood, but her developing relationship with Zine prevents her from accepting for now. A Nile scientist named Dr. Uttersond attempts to sell one of the Jedi-killing creatures on the black market, but is caught by Emmerich and Cyan. He explains that they are called the Nameless, the Shree-Kure, or the Eaters of the Force. With this new information, they head to Starlight Beacon. The space station is in disarray, traveling around the Outer Rim, offering aid from Nile attacks. Among the countless refugees, a team of Niles secretly board Starlight Beacon, release several of the Nameless, and sabotage the station so that it begins falling toward the planet Irem below. Emmerich and Cyan board to rescue several younglings and gain some samples of one of the Eaters of the Force. Several Jedi are killed in the disaster, but the Jedi Master Stellan Gios sacrifices his life to ensure Starlight Beacon does not crash into any of Irem's cities. Meanwhile, on Corellia, Reeth and Ram learn that Nile agents are attempting to steal Corellian-built ships so they can attack any reinforcements sent to the remains of Starlight Beacon. As they are nearly overwhelmed, Yoda returns to hold off the Nile and offer more clues to the origins of the Nameless. The Jedi Order is recalled from the Outer Rim to Coruscant while they assess this new threat. In their absence, Marchion Ro sets up a network of devices called Storm Seeds created from Chancey Yaro's research on the gravity's heart. The Storm Seeds destroy any ship attempting to enter his territory. Marchion announces his intent to take what he wants when he wants, having proven that neither the Republic nor the Jedi are currently capable of stopping him. Of course, the Nile, the Nameless, and Marchion Ro are all eventually dealt with, but the Republic and the Jedi Order are both forever changed and affected by the experiences. As the High Republic era comes to an end, a young Jedi named Dooku becomes the Padawan of Yoda. He befriends a fellow Padawan named Sifo Dyas who has visions in the Force. One foretells of a deadly solar storm hitting the planet Proto Branch. The Jedi Council declines to act on the vision, which comes true, and countless lives are lost. The events forever shake Dooku's confidence in the Jedi Council and the Order itself. The Sith Order continues to remain hidden thanks to the Rule of Two. Darth Plagueis and his apprentice Darth Sidious are the latest Sith in Darth Bane's lineage. After learning everything he can from his master, Sidious kills Plagueis in his sleep. Darth Sidious is publicly known as Senator Sheev Palpatine of Naboo, and his ultimate goal is to manufacture a galactic conflict that will throw the Republic into chaos and allow him to seize political power. He meets the Night Sister Mother Talzin and takes her son Maul as his new apprentice. Together they travel to the ruined Malachor, where Maul witnesses the history of the Sith and is instilled with an intense hatred and desire for revenge against the Jedi. A Jedi Padawan named Mace Windu travels with his master, Sislin Mur, to the planet Mathas, where they arrest a man taking advantage of the locals by masquerading as a Jedi. Another young Padawan named Qui-Gon Jinn becomes the apprentice of Jedi Master Dooku. Together, they research the prophecies of ancient Jedi mystics. After Qui-Gon's promotion to Jedi Knight, Dooku peacefully steps down from his position, leaving the Jedi Order and returning to his homeworld of Sereno. A slave named Shmi Skywalker gives birth to a fatherless son she names Anakin, who is conceived purely by the will of the cosmic force. Qui-Gon takes on an apprentice of his own named Obi-Wan Kenobi. During a mission to the planet Pyjal, he receives a vision through the Force that convinces him the ancient Jedi prophecies he studied with Dooku are true. The Mandalorian people experience civil war as Duchess Satine Kryze attempts to shift their culture from that of conquerors into pacifists. The militant group known as Death Watch hopes to assassinate the Duchess, so Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan are tasked with her protection. They live on the run for a year, and Obi-Wan and Satine develop feelings for each other, but when the war comes to an end, the Duchess returns to Mandalore to lead her now pacifist people, and Obi-Wan continues his Jedi training. At the age of 3, Anakin and his mother become the property of the junk dealer Watto on the remote desert world Tatooine. Meanwhile, the Jedi Master Yoda follows the call of the Force to a war-torn planet called Vagadar. There he learns to control a unique aspect of the Force known as Stone Power and brings peace to the inhabitants. A Jedi Master named Eno Cordova and his Padawan, Seer Junda, are sent to the planet Ontotho to settle a dispute between the locals and an interloping corporation. There, Cordova first encounters a mysterious Force-using species called the Zepho, sparking an obsession that he follows after Seer is elevated to the rank of Jedi Knight. Maul grows impatient of his master's plans in secrecy and seeks to test his power against a Jedi Padawan named Eldra Cadis. He kills her, much to his master's delight. Sidious begins the first phase of his master plan by engineering a blockade of his home planet. Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi are sent to end the dispute. They rescue the planet's ruler, Queen Padme Amidala, and are forced to retreat to Tatooine, where they meet Anakin Skywalker. Recognizing him to be the chosen one of Jedi prophecy, Qui-Gon arranges for Anakin's freedom and takes him back to Coruscant. The Galactic Republic's inability to solve the problems on Naboo reveals the ineffectiveness of the Senate and allows Palpatine to not only vote the Supreme Chancellor out of office, but also take the position for himself. Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Padme return to Naboo to remove the blockade by force. Darth Maul confronts them and cuts down Qui-Gon before being dealt a mortal wound himself. Anakin is admitted to the Jedi Order as the Padawan of Obi-Wan. Despite the loss of Maul and the end of the blockade, Palpatine's goal is achieved and he sets his eyes on Anakin as Maul's replacement. Sifo Dyas has visions of an upcoming conflict and attempts to warn the Galactic Republic. He is removed from the Jedi Council and dismissed as a warmonger. He takes matters into his own hands by commissioning the Kaminoans to create a clone army for the Republic, which catches the attention of Darth Sidious. He begins training Dooku as his new apprentice, Darth Tyrannus. Together, they arrange for the death of Sifo Dyas and secretly take control of the clone army he commissioned. The template for the clones is a bounty hunter named Jango Fett. As part of his payment, he requests a clone for himself to raise as a son to take on his legacy. He names his son Boba Fett. Anakin trains with Obi-Wan for 3 years, proving to be incredibly gifted in the Force. He falls under the mentorship of the Supreme Chancellor, who encourages the boy's thoughts that the Jedi Order is not what he expected. Anakin considers leaving the Order, but a mission with his master to the war-torn planet Carnelian IV convinces him to stay. Back on Tatooine, Shmi Skywalker meets Beru Whitesun, who is part of an anti-slavery movement on the planet. She conspires with her boyfriend, Owen Lars, and his father, Klieg Lars, to liberate Shmi from Watto. They are successful, and Shmi marries Klieg. They begin working on a device to help free more slaves across the planet. After serving 2 full terms as the Queen of Naboo, Padme Amidala is appointed to represent her planet in the Senate. She and her loyal handmaidens, including her body double Sabe, begin making political allies with other like-minded senators like Bail Organa of Alderaan. 10 years after the blockade of Naboo, Dooku leads a number of star systems in seceding from the Republic, beginning the conflict that was foreseen by Sifo Dyas. The Republic Senate is hesitant to create an army. Dooku orders the assassination of Padme, who is a staunch opponent to Republic militarization. The assassination fails, Anakin is assigned to protect her, and the two fall in love. Anakin has visions of his mother's kidnapping and death. He travels back to Tatooine to save her, but is too late. His mother dies in his arms, and he slaughters her captors in a rage. Meanwhile, Obi-Wan investigates the would-be assassins, discovers the clone army on Kamino, and is told by Dooku that the Senate has fallen under the influence of a Sith Lord. Ignorant of his true nature, the Senate grants Chancellor Palpatine emergency powers, gives the Jedi command of the clones, and the Clone Wars begin. Jango Fett is killed in the opening battle. A cyborg separatist general named Grievous takes control of droid forces and begins wreaking havoc across the galaxy. Anakin secretly marries Padme and rises to the rank of Jedi Knight. Padme makes contact with the Nemoidians of the Trade Federation in hopes of reaching a diplomatic solution to the conflict. Sabe travels to Tatooine, where she teams up with the Anti-Slavery Network so she can help mass-produce the device Shmi created before dying. The neutral homeworld of the Nemoidians, Cato Nemoidia, is attacked, and Dooku quickly blames the Republic. Obi-Wan travels there to absolve his government, but instead finds evidence that points towards the Separatists and the Republic, suggesting a third party is manipulating both sides of the war. During his investigation, he meets an assassin and apprentice to Dooku, a Night Sister named Asajj Ventress. On the planet Christophsis, Anakin is assigned a Padawan of his own named Ahsoka Tano. The Republic discovers plans for a new superweapon in the hands of their enemies, the insectoid Geonosian species. Palpatine manipulates a small group of engineers and scientists into creating the weapon for themselves, but the super laser proves to be a challenging breakthrough. Jedi Master Mace Windu leads a small task force of Jedi to liberate the planet Hysric. One member of his team, Proset Dibbs, believes the mission is not to protect the people of the planet, but rather to secure its resources. After securing Hysric, Dibbs claims that the Jedi Order should not play a role in such a large-scale conflict and turns on Mace. He is defeated and found guilty of treason by the Jedi Council, who mercifully place him on probation. Obi-Wan Kenobi confronts his past with Duchess Satine Kryze on a mission to ensure that Mandalore intends to stay neutral in the conflict. There he duels the leader of Death Watch, Pre Vizsla, who now wields the Darksaber and hopes to use the Clone Wars to remove Satine from power. Sidious grows wary of Ventress's strength and demands that she be killed as a test of Dooku's loyalty. She escapes the attempt on her life and becomes a bounty hunter. Jango Fett's son, Boba, also begins making a name for himself as a notorious bounty hunter, taking a job alongside Asajj. Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka are led to the realm of Mortis by the Father, who seeks someone to take his place as the keeper of the daughter and the son. Anakin proves himself to be worthy of the task, but the Force wielders ultimately destroy themselves, and the Jedi return to the known galaxy. On the planet Umbara, Anakin's troops are briefly given to the Jedi General Pong Krell. Hoping to gain the attention and favor of the secretive Sith Lord, the General manipulates the clones into battle with each other. The clone trooper Rex is able to stop and arrest the General, but another clone executes him for his crimes. Anakin and Ahsoka grow close, but they both see the less noble side of the Jedi when Ahsoka is wrongly accused of murder and kicked out of the Order. Anakin clears her name and she is invited back, but feeling betrayed by those she respected, she decides to leave. Anakin's trust in the Jedi Order is weakened. The true murderer is arrested and announces her belief that the Jedi have lost their way by openly serving in the Clone Wars. A young Padawan named Caleb Dume begins training under the Jedi Master Depa Billaba after they thwart a terrorist attack on the Jedi Temple together. Ahsoka learns what life is like for the regular people of the Republic when she meets the Martez sisters, Trace and Rafa. She realizes that things are not as black and white as she once believed, and continues to see the faults in the Jedi Order, who have lost touch with the people they are meant to protect. Boba Fett is mentored to become the best bounty hunter in the galaxy by a former rival of his father's named Cad Bane. The Jedi gravely decide that the fastest way to end the Clone Wars would be the assassination of Count Dooku. Quinlan Vos is given the job, and he teams up with Asajj Ventress. The two fall in love on the mission, but Quinlan falls to the dark side as he gets close to Dooku. He is redeemed and returns to the Jedi when Asajj gives her life to save his. In the midst of a battle, a clone murders one of his Jedi generals. An investigation reveals the presence of an inhibitor chip placed in the minds of all clone soldiers. Only 2 clones learn the whole truth. One is killed by his brothers for supposed treason, and the other is captured and placed in stasis aboard a separatist cruiser, which becomes lost in space. A Chiss military commander named Thrawn travels to Batuu on the edge of the known galaxy to learn more about the Clone Wars. There he meets Anakin, who is searching for Padme, who has gone missing. They track down Padme, and together they all shut down a separatist factory. Thrawn returns to his home, where he is responsible for combating any threats to his people. A mysterious species called the Grisk works to create a civil war within the Chiss Ascendancy and its many rival families. Thrawn is able to stop the Grisk by outwitting them in battle, although he is prepared to use the Starflash weapon once again if necessary. Knowing the Grisk will one day return, he exiles himself from the Chiss Ascendancy in hopes of creating new allies in the known galaxy. A group of genetically mutated clones called the Bad Batch take on special assignments for the Republic, including the rescue of a captured clone trooper named Echo from Separatist forces. Maul, having miraculously survived his injuries at the Battle of Naboo, takes control of the planet Mandalore and leadership of the Mandalorian Death Watch by killing Pre Vizsla and claiming the Darksaber for himself. He kills Duchess Satine in front of Obi-Wan as an act of revenge. Maul's machinations catch the eye of his former master, who sees him as a potential rival and puts an end to his crusade by chasing him throughout the galaxy and killing his mother, Talzin. Maul regroups on Mandalore once again, hoping to lure Obi-Wan and Anakin into a trap, but Ahsoka and Rex lead the attack instead. With the help of Satine's sister, Bo-Katan, they are able to capture Maul. As the Siege of Mandalore begins, war comes to Coruscant for the first time in 1,000 years. Anakin duels and kills Count Dooku, again leaving Sidious without an apprentice. Obi-Wan travels to Utapau, where he destroys General Grievous. Padme becomes pregnant with Anakin's child, and he begins to have visions of her death. Desperate to save her, he seeks advice from Palpatine, who not only reveals that he is the Sith Lord the Jedi have been searching for, but that he also has the power to save Padme. Anakin joins Sidious and takes up the name Darth Vader for a chance to save his wife. He betrays the Jedi Order, helps kill Mace Windu, and leads an attack on the Jedi Temple. Simultaneously, Palpatine issues Order 66, a command to all clones that triggers their chips to kill the Jedi. Within moments, most of the Jedi Order is destroyed. While transporting Maul back to the Republic, Ahsoka falls under attack from Order 66. She is able to incapacitate Rex and remove his chip. Maul escapes and sabotages their ship in the chaos, but Ahsoka and Rex also survive. They mark the graves of the fallen clone troopers, leave false graves for themselves, and part ways. Anakin is sent to Mustafar to assassinate the remaining leaders of the Confederacy of Independent Systems. With their deaths, the Clone Wars come to an end. Having no one left to oppose him, Palpatine transitions the Republic into the First Galactic Empire and proclaims himself Emperor of the Galaxy. Caleb Dume, Obi-Wan, and Yoda also survive the initial attack on the Jedi. Yoda confronts Sidious, while Obi-Wan confronts Anakin. Yoda is defeated and goes into exile on the planet Dagobah. Anakin is dismembered and badly burned, but left clinging to life by Obi-Wan. Padme dies giving birth to twins she names Luke and Leia. Leia is hidden with Bail Organa on Alderaan, and Obi-Wan takes Luke to Owen and Beru Lars on Tatooine. Darth Sidious informs Darth Vader that his wife and child are dead. Sabe is suspicious of Padme's death and is contacted by Bail, who requests her presence on Alderaan. Anakin is forced to wear a biomechanical suit in order to survive, and he takes up his position as apprentice to Darth Sidious. He constructs a Sith lightsaber using the Kyber Crystal of a fallen Jedi, and is then placed in charge of the Empire's Jedi killers known as the Inquisitorius. Made up of fallen Jedi, they are tasked with hunting down and destroying any Jedi that survived the Clone Wars. Proset Dibs and the Padawan of Seer Junda are both members of their ranks. The Bad Batch witness Order 66 firsthand, although their genetic modifications make them immune to the effects of the inhibitor chips. They are recalled to Kamino, where they meet Omega, another special clone. Unwilling to blindly follow the new, ruthless Empire, most of the Batch take Omega and flee, but one of their brothers, Crosshair, refuses to leave. Rex helps the others remove their inhibitor chips on the junkyard planet Bracca. There, Omega is captured by Cad Bane. He attempts to return her to the Kaminoans, who find her extremely valuable, but he is thwarted by an up-and-coming bounty hunter named Fennec Shand. The Empire begins transitioning their soldiers from clone troopers into Imperial stormtroopers made up of conscripts and volunteers. While investigating these replacements, Hunter, the leader of the Bad Batch, is captured by Crosshair and taken back to Kamino. During a rescue attempt, Crosshair gives them all a chance to join the Empire again, which they still refuse. The Empire bombards Kamino, destroying the cloning facilities, but the Bad Batch all escape. The Chief Archivist of the Jedi Order, Jocasta Nu, survives Order 66 and returns to the Jedi Temple to recover a list of Force-sensitive children. She is caught and killed in the process, but the list is also destroyed. Her actions lead the Emperor to find a vault full of ancient Force relics hidden within the Jedi archives, which includes the helmet of the Sith Lord Momin. The superweapon known as the Death Star continues construction, and the brilliant scientist Galen Erso is manipulated into designing its super laser. Caleb Dume is forced to abandon the ways of the Jedi in order to remain hidden. He changes his name to Kanan Jarrus. Word of a Jedi hiding on Mon Cala reaches the ears of the Empire, so Vader takes a handful of Inquisitors to eliminate him. They are successful, and the Mon Calamari people find themselves completely subjugated with their king Li Char taken hostage. Verla, a Force-sensitive follower of the now-dead Jedi, escapes Vader's clutches. Ahsoka hides in the Outer Rim for a year until she meets Bail Organa. They join forces to help systems that have fallen under the oppression of the Empire, and she takes up the codename Fulcrum. Galen Erso discovers that he is constructing a weapon of terrible power for the Empire and escapes to the Outer Rim with the help of a Rebel and Clone Wars veteran named Saw Gerrera. Darth Vader, the Inquisitors, and their Purge Troopers continue their hunt for surviving Jedi for the next 5 years. Sidious has doubts regarding Vader's loyalties and engineers a test for their survival at the rebellious planet Ryloth. Their ship is shot down, and Vader is forced to more fully embrace the dark side to keep them alive. A surviving Padawan named Cal Kestis is discovered by the Inquisitors, but he is rescued by Seer Junda, who also survived Order 66. Together they attempt to track down a holocron containing another copy of the list of Force-sensitive children, which was hidden by Cordova during his research into the Zepho. Once the list is recovered, they decide the children are safer in hiding, and it is destroyed once and for all. Moff Tarkin, a merciless Imperial leader, is tasked with the protection of the Death Star after Galen's escape. Rebels come close to discovering the secret construction, but with the help of Darth Vader, Tarkin not only destroys them, but reveals an Imperial traitor. His success prompts his promotion to Grand Moff, the first of the Empire. Galen Erso remains hidden for 4 years, but is tracked down by his former colleague and Imperial Director of Advanced Weapons Research, Orson Krennic. Galen's wife is killed, he is taken into Imperial custody, and is forced to continue working on the Death Star, leaving his daughter Jyn in the care of Saw Gerrera. With work on the Death Star's superlaser now back on track, construction is moved away from Geonosis, and the Geonosian species is nearly exterminated by the Empire. On Corellia, a young orphan named Han survives as a member of the White Worm Gang. He falls in love with a fellow scrum rat named Kira, and they plan to escape their miserable lives, buy their own ship, and fly wherever they want. But Kira is caught during their escape attempt. She is sold to the criminal syndicate known as Crimson Dawn, which is controlled by Maul. Han desperately joins the Imperial Academy to get off Corellia, where he butts heads with authority and his fellow students. One of them, named Bylert Valance, suffers serious injuries on a mission, but Han defies orders to rescue him. Valance is forced out of Imperial service and becomes a bounty hunter under the mentorship of Nakano Lash. On a mission with fellow bounty hunters Boba Fett and Bossk, Lash betrays them and kills their client, which puts a price on all their heads. Having destroyed most of the surviving Jedi, Darth Vader is gifted a planet from his master. He chooses Mustafar and builds a fortress there with the help of Momin's helmet, which is able to possess anyone who wears it. The fortress is designed to reach the netherworld of the Force, where Vader hopes to resurrect his wife. Momin betrays Vader and instead resurrects himself, but is quickly destroyed. After 8 years in hiding, Kanan has become a drunk freighter pilot. He meets a rebel named Hera, with whom he becomes infatuated. He sobers up and fights to protect a small planet in the Outer Rim, which requires him to reveal himself as a Force user. He joins Hera on her ship, the Ghost. Their actions gain the attention of a young Imperial captain named Ray Sloan. After years of exile, Thrawn is discovered by the Empire. He allows himself to be captured and is taken before the Emperor, who is so impressed with the man that he is admitted to the Imperial Navy. A gambler named Lando Calrissian and his droid partner L337 aboard their ship, the Millennium Falcon, unknowingly discover the construction of a mysterious device that will later be known as the Phalanx Redux Transmitter. They share a number of adventures that Lando documents as the Calrissian Chronicles. When they help a group of slaves escape Imperial custody, the Falcon is impounded on the planet Vandor, so Lando heads there to find a way to break it out. After 3 years in Imperial service, Han meets a Wookiee named Chewbacca on the planet Mimban. Together they escape the Empire with a group of criminals run by a man named Beckett. They also travel to Vandor to rob an Imperial train, which would earn them enough money to retire. The job fails thanks to a rebel sympathizer named Enfys Nest, and they are forced to answer to Crimson Dawn, where Han is reunited with Kira. They hire Lando and break out the Falcon to attempt another robbery, but ultimately Han and Chewie decide to help Enfys. L3 and Beckett are killed, and Kira is forced to move deeper into Crimson Dawn ranks to protect Han. Obi-Wan Kenobi continues to watch over Luke Skywalker and the Lars family until Imperial Inquisitors reach Tatooine. He is forced to go on the run, where he confronts his past and greatest failure in another duel against his former apprentice and friend, Darth Vader. Han and Chewie begin working as smugglers for Jabba the Hutt from his palace on Tatooine. They're sent on a job to Corellia, where Han meets a man claiming to be his father. Jyn Erso fights with Saw Gerrera and his partisans until he leaves her helpless in the middle of a battle. 16 years old and alone, she is forced to live a life of crime to survive. On the Outer Rim planet of Lothal, a boy named Zer Leonis looks forward to joining his sister in the Imperial Academy until she goes missing. Believing the Empire is behind her disappearance, he makes plans to infiltrate the Academy to find her. On the same planet, another boy, an orphan named Ezra Bridger, inadvertently assists some rebels in stealing some supplies from the Empire. Those rebels turn out to be Kanan and Hera. Ezra learns that he has abilities in the Force, and Kanan decides to train him. During that time, they discover and visit a Jedi temple on Lothal. Ezra also infiltrates the Imperial Academy and meets Zer. The two young spies help each other in their respective missions. Zer is eventually transferred to a more elite academy on Arcanus. There he meets Commandant Brindle Hux, who believes the future of the Empire requires a marriage of Imperial and Republic doctrines. Zer, with the help of Ezra, is able to find and rescue his sister, who is imprisoned after the Empire discovered her Force sensitivity. Leia Organa becomes a junior legislator in the Imperial Senate and learns that both her adoptive parents are members of the growing insurgency against the Empire. She begins helping Bail and Breha Organa secretly support the rebellion and even helps the Ghost crew on Lothal. Kanan, Ezra, and the rest of their crew cause enough problems for the Empire that Darth Vader himself is sent to hunt them down. Ahsoka also joins their crew when their small cell joins the larger rebellion. The three Force users travel to Malachor hoping to find a way to defeat the Sith. There they find Maul, who had returned to the planet after apparently losing control of Crimson Dawn. He attempts to pull Ezra to the dark side and blinds Kanan before retreating. Darth Vader finds them at the Sith Temple and confronts Ahsoka. She fights him long enough to allow Kanan and Ezra to escape with a Sith holocron. Han, having won the Millennium Falcon from Lando in a game of sabacc, takes a job that involves the Phalanx Redux transmitter that Lando encountered 5 years earlier. Han briefly acquires it, but is forced to abandon it to float through space. Senator Mon Mothma publicly denounces Emperor Palpatine and rallies the various rebel cells into a unified movement. As their organization continues to grow, Thrawn, who has risen to the rank of Grand Admiral, is tasked with the destruction of Kanan and Hera's specific cell. Maul reappears and uses Ezra and the Sith holocron to determine that Obi-Wan survived the Clone Wars. He hunts down the old Jedi Master and is finally killed for good. The Darksaber passes to Sabine Wren, a Mandalorian member of Hera's crew. Meanwhile, Thrawn finds the location of Hera's rebel base and forces them to retreat to Yavin 4. He is then recalled by the Emperor and paired up with Darth Vader on a mission to Batuu, where they first met. They investigate a new potential threat to the Empire, which turns out to be the Grisk, who appear to have successfully begun a civil war among the Chiss in Thrawn's absence. Sabine and her friends lead an attack on Imperial-occupied Mandalore, using the Darksaber to rally other Mandalorians to their cause. Sabine then passes the Darksaber to Bo-Katan as she returns to fighting with the Rebellion. Unfortunately, the Empire does not take kindly to the uprising and sends their full might to pacify the planet. Countless Mandalorians are killed in what becomes known as the Great Purge, and the Darksaber is likely lost to the Empire at this time. When Grand Admiral Thrawn returns from his mission against the Grisk, he develops a new starfighter called the TIE Defender, which begins production on Lothal. Ezra and his friends return to Lothal to destroy the factory and liberate the planet, while Thrawn is yet again called away to investigate the growing threat of the Grisk. Ezra and the crew of the Ghost are ultimately successful in the destruction of the factory, but Kanan is killed in the process. Ezra returns to the Jedi Temple on the planet to investigate Imperial activity there. He finds a portal to a mysterious place known as the World Between Worlds that exists outside of space and time. He is able to see Ahsoka's duel with Darth Vader on Malachor, and he saves her from certain death, but each of them have to return to their own times. Ezra leads one final mission against the Imperial occupation on Lothal. Not only is he successful in liberating the planet, but he also removes Grand Admiral Thrawn as a present danger by jumping into an unknown area of the galaxy with him. When Han is held hostage by Imperial bureaucrats, Chewbacca is forced to investigate a nexus in the dark side where he discovers an ancient book, which is then stolen by rebel operatives named Cassian Andor and K2SO, but Chewie successfully rescues Han anyway. Still hoping to unlock the secrets of saving Padme, Darth Vader begins to seek the Bright Star beneath his castle. He tracks down the last living descendant of Lady Corvax, who is the only person able to access the relic. But the smuggler stops the ritual and escapes, saving the galaxy from untold pain. The destruction of the Bright Star allows Mustafar to begin healing. As the Death Star nears completion, Galen gets a message out to Saw Gerrera and Jyn, who reunite on Jedha. Galen claims to have left a flaw in the superweapon's design. Jyn personally witnesses the might of the Death Star when it fires a test shot onto Jedha, killing a city full of people, Saw Gerrera, and most of his partisans. Jyn leads a group of rebels in an attack on the Imperial planet Scarif, where the Death Star plans are held. The Battle of Scarif is the first large-scale act of open war against the Empire as a truly unified rebel alliance. Krennic, Jyn, and her entire team are killed in the mission, including Cassian and K2SO, but the plans are successfully stolen and passed on to Princess Leia of Alderaan. Her ship is captured by Darth Vader above Tatooine, and she sends the plans in an escape pod to the planet below with 2 droids in hopes that they can find Obi-Wan for safe delivery to Alderaan. As the Empire searches for the droids, C-3PO and R2-D2, they murder Luke's aunt and uncle. Luke and the droids make their way to Obi-Wan, who begins training Luke as a Jedi as they travel to Alderaan after booking passage with Han Solo and Chewbacca. But Grand Moff Tarkin orders the destruction of Alderaan as an example of its power, killing Bail and Breha Organa along with every being on the planet. When Luke and the others arrive, they are captured by the Death Star. Luke, Han, and Chewbacca rescue Leia and escape, but Obi-Wan confronts his old apprentice and is struck down. Leia delivers the plans to Yavin 4, and Luke joins the counterattack against the Death Star. The rebels are able to exploit the weakness placed by Galen Erso, and the station is destroyed, but Darth Vader survives. Luke, Han, and Chewbacca are given medals for their part in the Battle of Yavin. But the discovery of the base on Yavin 4 means the rebellion is forced to become mobile. Leia races across the galaxy, gathering surviving Alderaanians and bringing them to safety. On top of receiving a medal, Han is given a large sum of money so that he can pay off his debts to Jabba the Hutt. But his poor decision-making leads him to lose it all, and so he and Chewie continue to help the Alliance, rescuing rebel spies whose covers were compromised in the wake of the Death Star's destruction. Chewbacca also frees a number of slaves from the planet Andelm 4. Luke continues his Jedi training as best he can on his own. During his own mission to rescue a rebel operative, he gains some minor control over telepathy and some understanding of the inner workings of a lightsaber. On another mission, he travels to a ruined Jedi temple on Deveron, where he's able to train against remotes and greatly improve his mastery over the weapon. The loss of the Death Star inspires Imperial Admiral Garrick Versio to build an elite team of soldiers dubbed Inferno Squad. His daughter, Iden Versio, successfully leads them on their first mission to find, infiltrate, and destroy some of the surviving members of Saw Gerrera's partisans. Leia, Han, Chewie, and Luke attack a major weapons facility on Cymoon 1. There, Luke is met by Darth Vader, who recognizes his old lightsaber wielded by the young man. Vader begins an investigation with the help of the bounty hunter Boba Fett, who learns that Luke's last name is Skywalker. Vader realizes the Emperor has been deceiving him for nearly 2 decades and enlists the help of an archaeologist named Dr. Aphra to create a personal army that he can use to overthrow the Emperor. Aphra helps, but ultimately betrays him to the Emperor, who sees Vader's actions as assurance that he has devoted himself to the dark side and gives him command of Imperial forces. Fearing Vader, Aphra goes into hiding. In her place, Vader makes an ally in Queen Trios of the industrial world Shu Torren. Han is hired to participate in a famous race as a cover to pick up and rescue more rebel spies. He still hasn't paid off his debts to Jabba. Luke begins reading the journals of Obi-Wan to learn more about the Jedi. A woman named Sana tracks down Han, claiming to be his wife, but their marriage was part of a scam that he cheated her on, and she simply wants her share. She enters the service of the rebellion as a mercenary. A rebel agent on Coruscant is presented with a chance to assassinate Palpatine. His attempt fails, and he is horribly scarred. Learning the truth that the Emperor is a Sith Lord, he begins a crusade to murder Imperials being held in a secret prison until he is stopped by Leia. Luke, Leia, Han, and the others steal a Star Destroyer so they can deliver supplies to a starving planet under Imperial blockade. They are barely successful after coming into contact with an elite stormtrooper unit called Scar Squadron. Dr. Aphra returns to archaeology and, with the help of her murderous droids 000 and BT-1, discovers the location of the ancient fortress of the Ordu Espectu. She recovers the memory crystal of a fallen Jedi named Rur and hopes to sell it on the black market. She first seeks to activate the crystal by manipulating Luke Skywalker into helping her achieve an audience with the parasitic Queen of the Screaming Citadel. The Queen attempts to kidnap Luke but is defeated, and the Rur crystal is activated. Aphra then organizes an auction for the crystal, but 000 alerts Darth Vader of her whereabouts. The droid forces Aphra to release him as her servant to help her survive, and she complies. Now forced to serve the psychotic droid, she retreats, and the Rur crystal is recovered by Vader. 000 sends Aphra on a mission to recover his long-lost memories, hoping he can unlock his true potential. She is successful but encrypts them and alerts the Empire of her master's location to keep him from killing her. She is then sent to an Imperial prison, where she unknowingly meets the mad Dr. Cornelius Evazan, who helps her escape. He captures Aphra and 000, placing bombs inside both of them, and then drops them on the law-obsessed planet Milvain, simply because he thinks it would be entertaining to watch them have to work together. The two of them disable the explosives, and in the process, they completely disrupt the lifestyle of the planet, causing an uprising against the Empire and Milvain law enforcement. Lando Calrissian, having continued his life as a scoundrel and gambler, is steeped in debt. He is hired to steal a ship full of priceless art. The ship belongs to Palpatine, and the art is of Sith origins. Momin's helmet is on board, and when it begins corrupting members of his team, Lando destroys the ship and escapes with his friend Lobot. After beginning construction on a second Death Star, the Empire returns to what remains of Jedha to harvest the Kyber crystals that power the weapon's superlaser. Luke, Leia, Han, and Chewie help the final remaining survivors of Saw Gerrera's partisans in defense of the moon. Queen Trios offers herself to Leia as an informant, and the two begin working together. Still seeking a permanent base, the rebels investigate the planet Crate, which was once used as a hideout by Leia's father. They set up some minor defenses, but are discovered and attacked by Scar Squadron, forcing the Alliance to stay on the move. Hoping to find more allies in the shipbuilders of Mon Cala, Luke, Leia, Han, and Chewie attempt to break Lee Char out of Imperial prison. He is killed in the process, but delivers a stirring speech to his subjects who liberate their fleet and join the Rebel Alliance. With the Rebel fleet and leadership gathered in one place, Queen Trios betrays Leia, calling the Imperial fleet to their location. Many members of Alliance High Command are killed, and the survivors scatter across the galaxy. Luke, Leia, and Han become stranded on the moon Hubin, where they are taken in by former mercenaries known as Clan Marcona. Scar Squadron eventually tracks them down, the moon is evacuated, and Luke, Leia, and Han rejoin what remains of the Rebel fleet. Hoping to strike back at the Empire, Leia creates a plan to remove Queen Trios and Shu Torun as Imperial assets. They successfully disable the planet's infrastructure with minimal loss of life, but Leia does kill Trios in self-defense. From there, Luke, Leia, Han, Chewie, and 3PO split off on various missions. Luke is sent to evacuate a Rebel cell where he meets a Force-sensitive thief that teaches him a little more about the Force. Han and Leia run into her ex-boyfriend, who helps them lure the Empire into a trap set by 3PO and Chewie. Their respective missions successful, the heroes and their new allies rendezvous at the site of the new Rebel base on the ice planet Hoth. Dr. Aphra's previous escapades catch the attention of the head of the Empire's propaganda machine, who recruits her to help assassinate the Emperor. The rogue archaeologist betrays her new ally to Darth Vader, which puts her back on his good side, at least as much as possible. She is assigned to a new archaeological task force that is researching old historical sites, hoping to find the new Rebel base. Aphra discovers that the Rebels have established their base on Hoth, and she once again betrays Vader by scrambling the information, buying the Alliance a few more months of safety before escaping. Vader runs into even more problems when he becomes the target of an assassination plot led by Bylert Valance. The attempt is foiled thanks to Dengar, who served as a spy within Valance's team, but Bylert negotiates his freedom by leading the Empire to the criminals that hired him. The Rebel base remains secret for about 3 total months until being discovered by the Empire, forcing an evacuation. Luke travels to the Dagobah system to find Yoda and begins to train under the old Jedi Master. Meanwhile, Darth Vader chases Han, Leia, and Chewbacca to Cloud City, which is under the ownership of Han's old friend, Lando. Han and Leia fall in love along the way, but Vader forces Lando to betray the Rebels, and Han is frozen in carbonite and taken by Boba Fett to be delivered to Jabba. Luke races off to save his friends. He is beaten in a duel with Vader, who reveals that he is Luke's father. Vader requests Luke join him to kill the Emperor and rule the galaxy together, but instead Luke escapes Cloud City with Lando and Leia. They attempt to rejoin the Rebel fleet, but their forces are scattered and unable to communicate with each other for fear of attracting Imperial attention. So Luke, Leia, and Lando return to Cloud City. Lando frees his friend Lobot and makes sure his factories can't be used to further the Imperial war machine. Luke searches for his lost lightsaber, and the Force leads him to Verla, who encountered Darth Vader on Mon Cala years prior. She teaches Luke about his father and tells him where he can find a replacement lightsaber. Meanwhile, the Rebels work to create new codes that the Empire can't crack under task forces led by Shera Bey and Kez Dameron. Darth Vader begins to seek revenge upon the people that conspired to hide his son from him. His investigation leads him to Sabe, Padmé's former body double. Believing Vader to be responsible for Padmé's death, she leads him into a trap. The Sith Lord escapes, but spares Sabe's life. Angered by the show of mercy, the Emperor attacks Vader and abandons him on Mustafar to be hunted by an assassin named Ochi of Bestoon. Again, Vader beats his attacker, who leads him to the Emperor's secret facilities on the planet Exegol, an ancient stronghold of the Sith located in the unknown regions. There, Vader witnesses the extent of the Emperor's power and resources and once again commits himself to the dark side. Dr. Aphra is hired by an eccentric art collector named Ronan Tagg to find legendary relics called the Rings of Vale. She succeeds, but Ronan betrays her, so Aphra nearly kills him during her escape. This catches the attention of Ronan's aunt, Domina Tagg, who forces Aphra to recover some old Nile hyperspace technology that could bring great fortune to the Tagg Corporation. Aphra teams up with her former girlfriend, Sana Staros, to finish the job and stay alive. Meanwhile, Valance, Boba Fett, and Bossk are all alerted to a sighting of Nakano Lash. They drop what they're doing to seek revenge for her betrayal years ago, even Fett, who is still in custody of a carbonite-encased Han Solo. Valance learns his former mentor is harboring a child in need of protection named Cadelia. Fett kills Lash, but Valance delivers the child to the rebellion for safekeeping. In a fight with Dengar, Valance learns of Han Solo's capture. Remembering how the smuggler once saved his life, he heads off to see if he can return the favor. Boba Fett's detour causes Han's carbonite slab to malfunction. He gets it fixed on the smuggler's moon, Nar Shaddaa, but also loses his bounty to Crimson Dawn. Now under the control of Kira, she hopes to reintroduce her criminal syndicate to the galaxy by auctioning Solo off to the highest bidder. The Empire and several other criminal syndicates take part in the auction, including the Hutt Council, who are furious at the theft of Jabba's property. When the Empire wins the auction, Jabba graciously departs, but another Hutt, Baku, declares war on the Imperials. During the chaos, Luke, Leia, Valance, and Boba Fett all attempt to steal Solo from the Empire. Fett is successful, the rebels escape with nothing to show for their efforts, and Valance is captured by Vader, who also kills every member of the Hutt Council except for Jabba. Dr. Aphra also attends the auction, hoping to steal some information for the Tag Corporation and some treasure for herself. She comes across and steals a mind control device called a Thought Dowser created by the Ascendant, a group who use technology to recreate the effects of the Force. During her escape, the Dowser infects the electronic tattoos in her arms. Kira reveals that she plans to use Crimson Dawn to take down the Empire and defeat the Sith who control it, so that power can be equally divided among the people of the galaxy. She gathers many groups to her cause, including assassins, bounty hunters, and some dark side wielders called the Knights of Ren. Meanwhile, Luke seeks out several Jedi temples on a list compiled by R2-D2. On Ilum, he sees that the Empire is working to build some sort of facility into the planet itself. But on the world Aldalim, he finds an old holocron of Yoda's so that he can continue his Jedi training. Domina Tag sends Aphra to seek out more Ascendant technology, which pits her against an old archaeological rival named Ko, who seeks Ascendant artifacts for Crimson Dawn. Sabe also joins the Dawn and uses their resources to learn that Darth Vader and Anakin Skywalker are one and the same, and that Luke Skywalker is his son. Vader tracks her down and plans to use her new affiliation with Crimson Dawn to destroy it from within. Crimson Dawn kidnaps Cordelia from the rebellion, and several bounty hunters hired by a woman named Tonga seek to rescue her. A group of TIE fighter pilots known as Shadow Wing begin to make a name for themselves. They witness firsthand a loss of faith in Imperial leadership and stop an admiral from leading a small secession against the Emperor. A rebel group known as Twilight Company participates in the Battle of Inyusu Tor, which is not a major victory but does bring the Solistan people more firmly into the rebellion. The Rebel Alliance discovers the Empire's second Death Star and begins planning an all-out attack after learning that Emperor Palpatine will soon be visiting the space station. Fearing the Empire will notice their mustering forces at Solist, Leia offers herself up as high-profile bait, leading the Empire on a distracting chase across the galaxy. When she returns, Luke tells her he has a plan to rescue Han from Jabba the Hutt. The rebellion intercepts a coded Imperial message that would reveal their attack on the second Death Star is a trap, but Inferno Squad infiltrates one of their ships and recovers the data. Leia and Chewbacca travel to Ord Mantell, where they are attacked by the bounty hunter Bosch. They defeat him, and Leia takes his armor as a disguise. She uses it to create a cover for herself and Chewbacca to infiltrate Jabba's palace on Tatooine. Han is successfully rescued, Jabba the Hutt is killed in the process, and Boba Fett is left for dead in the desert. His armor is stolen by Jawas, and he is captured by Tusken Raiders, natives of the planet, who come to respect his strength and accept him as part of their tribe. Luke returns to Dagobah, where Yoda confirms that Darth Vader is indeed his father before passing away. Immediately after, the spirit of Obi-Wan tells Luke that Leia is his twin sister. Luke returns to the Rebel fleet, who prepares their assault on the second Death Star, which orbits the forest moon Endor. Luke, Han, and Leia lead a ground mission to disable the Death Star's defenses, but Luke decides to leave to try to bring his father back to the light side. He tells Leia all about their messed up family history and surrenders himself to the Empire. The rebellion falls into the trap, and in the Battle of Endor, Luke successfully redeems Darth Vader, who sacrifices himself to kill Darth Sidious, becoming Anakin Skywalker once more in his final moments of life. Luke escapes as the second Death Star is destroyed, and what remains of the Empire retreats. Han and Leia get married shortly after. The Emperor's spirit flees to Exegol. There it inhabits a faulty clone of his body, and he begins work to one day regain control of the galaxy by constructing the largest fleet the galaxy has ever seen. Back in the known galaxy, another secret contingency plan set up by Palpatine is carried out by his most trusted commanders. Operation Cinder targets not only rebellious worlds, but the Imperial planets that failed to protect their leader. Inferno Squad falls apart in the wake of the destruction and defects to the Rebel Alliance, which has reformed into the New Republic. Inferno Squad is just one of many task forces sent out to hunt down high-ranking Imperials. Yrica Quell, a former member of Shadow Wing, defects to the New Republic. Her knowledge of the enemy allows her to be part of a small intelligence project called Alphabet Squadron, a more targeted task force meant to wipe out the elite ties of Shadow Wing. But when the rest of her squadron learns that she helped to destroy an entire planet in Operation Cinder, she returns to the Empire. Feeling that the New Republic's priorities are not where they should be, Han and Chewbacca go rogue and lead a mission to liberate Chewie's enslaved homeworld, Kashyyyk. The New Republic eventually decides to help, and the Wookiees are freed. Chewie decides to stay on Kashyyyk with his family. Luke begins traveling the galaxy to research the Jedi Order and gather missing relics of their past. He recovers a Jedi star compass leading to Ahch-To and the first Jedi Temple. Hera Syndulla leads a secret New Republic mission to create a capital ship that can more effectively fight what's left of the Empire called the Starhawk. Vanguard Squadron is tasked with its protection, and they fight against the Imperial Titan Squadron. Titan pilots are able to destroy the Starhawk prototype, delaying a New Republic victory and forcing the ship's creators to start from scratch. Yrica Quell works undercover to sabotage the Empire. She learns of a secret database on Coruscant that catalogs the war crimes of every member of the Imperial machine. She stops its destruction and is given a partial pardon from Mon Mothma for her efforts. 1 year after the Battle of Endor, Operation Cinder comes to its conclusion at the Battle of Jakku, which sees the purposeful destruction of most of the Empire. Ray Sloan, who has since been promoted to the rank of Grand Admiral, transmits coordinates to the few survivors who are considered worthy. They escape into the unknown regions and rendezvous with the Emperor's secret Super Star Destroyer, the Eclipse. Most of the Imperials left behind surrender, and the Galactic Civil War comes to an end. On the very same day, Leia gives birth to Ben Solo. Mon Mothma quickly begins to demilitarize the New Republic to assure the galaxy that the time for fighting has ended. In the absence of both the Empire and Jabba the Hutt, criminal groups begin competing for power on Tatooine. A local lawman named Cobb Vanth purchases Boba Fett's armor from the Jawas and uses it to defend his small town. The Pike Syndicate brings their spice trade to Tatooine. They murder Boba's Tusken tribe, leaving him as the sole survivor. Leia trains as a Jedi with Luke for a time on the jungle world Ajan Kloss, but she decides to stop when she senses danger in her son's future. When Ben is 2 years old, Han and Lando are forced to revisit their former adventures involving the Phalanx Redux transmitter. They learn the device has the power to turn all droids into killers, and they seek it out and destroy it before it can be activated. With a significantly smaller military performing under a new government, much of the galaxy falls into disarray. In the Outer Rim, a group of Mandalorians struggle to survive. One of them, named Din Djarin, works as a bounty hunter and is tasked with delivering a Force-sensitive child of the same species as Jedi Master Yoda to a small group of surviving Imperials. Instead, he takes the child under his protection, running from Moff Gideon, who now wields the Mandalorian Darksaber. Boba Fett saves the life of Fennec Shand on Tatooine. She joins him in his quest to take control of Jabba the Hutt's former territory from the criminals who occupy it. As Din protects the child, he receives Fett's armor from Cobb Vanth after they kill a crate dragon together. He hunts for more Mandalorians and meets Bo-Katan, who is on her own mission to reclaim the Darksaber from Gideon. She guides Din to Ahsoka, who is on her own mission to hunt down Grand Admiral Thrawn, who has returned after being missing for 9 years. Ahsoka learns the child is a young Jedi survivor of Order 66 named Grogu and leads Din to a Jedi temple on Tython, where Grogu can reach out through the Force for help. There, Boba Fett finally catches up with Din and takes back his armor. The Empire captures Grogu and takes him to Gideon, but not before he reaches out to someone through the Force. Din leads a team including Boba Fett and Bo-Katan to rescue Grogu, and would have been unsuccessful if not for the intervention of Luke Skywalker, who heard the child's call and came to help. With Din and Grogu's permission, Luke takes the young one away to teach him the ways of the Force. Din breaks the laws of his Mandalorian clan and shows Grogu his face as they say goodbye. Having beaten Gideon in combat, the Darksaber passes to Din, much to Bo-Katan's frustration. Ahsoka travels to Lothal to reunite with Sabine Wren so they can hunt for Thrawn and Ezra together. Boba Fett and Fennec Shand take control of Jabba's palace. Din briefly returns to bounty hunting, but finds he no longer belongs in that world. He is expelled from his Mandalorian clan for removing his helmet and travels back to Tatooine to help Boba Fett in his fight against the Pike Syndicate. They defeat the rival crime families thanks to the help of Cobb Vanth's settlement. Grogu trains with Luke, who helps him remember his Jedi teachings. He offers the child a choice to continue along the path of the Jedi or to return to Din. Grogu decides to walk away from the Jedi and reunites with the Mandalorian. Despite having started a family, Han Solo grows restless and continues to accept jobs that take him across the galaxy. In Chewbacca's absence, he hires a young man named Duquesne as a temporary first mate. Duquesne betrays Han and steals the Millennium Falcon. In the unknown regions, the Imperial Remnant faces many dangers and only survives thanks to the help of a mysterious being known as Snoke. He is a puppet of Palpatine's who slowly takes over the Empire by eliminating his competition until he is the only option left to follow. The Empire becomes known as the First Order. Palpatine's clone body begins to decay, and so his acolytes attempt to create new clones for him to inhabit. The only successful specimen is a non-genetically identical, non-Force-sensitive man. Hoping that he will one day produce offspring strong enough to contain his power, the clone is sent into the galaxy. Poe Dameron, the son of Kez Dameron and Shara Bey, grows up wishing he could live out the kinds of adventures his parents went on during the Galactic Civil War. He joins the criminal Spice Runners of Kijimi in a misguided attempt to escape his home. He falls in love with another member of the gang, Zori Bliss, but after a year with them, he decides he cannot live with the same morally ambiguous code, and he abandons her to return home. The clone of Palpatine marries and has a daughter named Rey. Hoping to hide her from the Emperor, she is left on Jakku at the age of 6 years old. Ochi of Bestoon murders her parents, but Rey's location is kept a secret. After years of learning about the Force and the Jedi Order of old, Luke decides he is ready to begin his own Jedi Academy, taking his nephew Ben as one of his first students. Snoke appears as an ally to Luke, offering to unlock new secrets of the Force, but his true purpose is to slowly corrupt Ben's heart. On a trip to explore an old Jedi outpost from the High Republic era, Luke, Ben, and their friend Lor San Tekka run into the Knights of Ren, who now secretly work for Snoke. Luke forces them to retreat, but not before they tempt young Ben with their power. A First Order scouting ship crash lands on a savage planet called Parnassos. A brutal warrior named Phasma helps the First Order officers contact their allies, and in exchange they allow her to join their ranks to help train a new breed of soldier. She helps General Armitage Hux murder his father Brindle so that he may rise further in the ranks. Having grown ill, Mon Mothma steps down as leader of the New Republic. The Senate quickly devolves into corruption without her leadership. Leia becomes a candidate to lead the Senate, but a rival learns that she is the daughter of Darth Vader and her political career is destroyed. In the midst of all this, Leia learns of the existence of the First Order, although not by name, and she creates a secret resistance to better protect the galaxy. Luke senses danger in his nephew and ignites his lightsaber against Ben in a moment of weakness. Ben knocks his uncle unconscious in retaliation, and in his anger, he accidentally destroys the temple, killing many of his fellow students. 3 survivors chase him to Snoke and the Knights of Ren, who accept him as one of their own. Their leader kills one of the Padawans, unleashing fury in Ben, who kills the leader and takes control of the Knights for himself. He alters his lightsaber, joins the First Order, and takes up the name Kylo Ren. Devastated, Luke goes into hiding, and Han and Leia go their separate ways. Bazine Natal is hired to retrieve a mysterious package from a veteran of the Battle of Endor. Sidon Athano, the pirate also known as the Crimson Corsair, follows a beacon to a rumored secret treasure of Count Dooku. Instead of riches, he finds a clone trooper named Kix that had been frozen in stasis for nearly 50 years. A young Force-sensitive boy named Kar learns how to use his powers in psychometry to research the Jedi of old, whose history has been twisted by years of Imperial propaganda. He begins to collect old relics so that he can learn and tell a more accurate version of their tale. After serving in the New Republic Navy for a time, Poe Dameron becomes aware of the First Order and joins General Organa and the Resistance. He leads Black Squadron in covert missions against the First Order as they attempt to gain more influence in the Senate. Their main priority is to find Luke Skywalker and bring him back to help. Poe is able to track down Lor San Tekka, whose research points them towards the hidden Jedi Master. Poe also takes a young Hosnian New Republic pilot named Kazuda Xiono under his wing. After joining the Resistance, Kaz is stationed on an old space station named the Colossus on the planet Castellon. There, he sees the First Order infiltrate and attempt to take over the platform. A Resistance spy named Vi Marati is captured by a First Order stormtrooper captain named Cardinal. Together they uncover the truth of Captain Phasma's treachery, Cardinal defects, and they both head back to the Resistance. The First Order is also hunting Luke and tracks down Poe and Lor San Tekka on Jakku. Poe hides a map to the Last Jedi in his droid BB-8, who escapes the fight. Poe also escapes the First Order thanks to a defecting stormtrooper who comes to be known as Finn. They head back to Jakku to find BB-8 but are separated. The droid enlists the help of Rey, who has remained on the planet for the last 14 years as a scavenger. They meet up with Finn and leave the planet in the Millennium Falcon, which has been sitting inactive on Jakku for an unknown amount of time. Han and Chewie quickly pick up the ship's transponder and retake it. They agree to take Finn, Rey, and BB-8 to Takodana to get help from Maz Kanata. Maz discovers Rey has powers in the Force and offers her the lightsaber that once belonged to Anakin and Luke Skywalker. Meanwhile, the Resistance sends their bombing squadrons on a relief mission to a remote system. Fearing the Resistance will soon reach Luke, the First Order activates the superweapon they spent decades constructing on Ilum, Starkiller Base. They destroy the New Republic Senate and its fleet in mere moments. From across the galaxy, Iden Versio witnesses the destruction and begins to investigate First Order activity with her daughter Zay. They board a Star Destroyer and steal a number of schematics. From Castellon, Kaz witnesses the destruction of his homeworld. Despite his grief, he rallies the citizens of the Colossus against the First Order, reactivates the station, and escapes into hyperspace. Kylo Ren attacks Takodana and captures Rey, hoping her knowledge will lead him to his uncle. Han, Chewie, and Finn travel to Starkiller Base to rescue her while the Resistance attacks the weapon itself without their bombers. They hold Captain Phasma at gunpoint in order to lower the base's shields. After being interrogated by Kylo, Rey begins to understand and control her powers. She is able to free herself and find Finn and the others. Han confronts his son, hoping to bring him home, but instead Kylo kills his father and faces Rey in a duel. She defeats him but leaves him alive. As Starkiller Base explodes, she escapes with Finn, Chewie, and the surviving Resistance pilots. Meanwhile, Iden and Zay hijack the Star Destroyer they boarded and pull it out of hyperspace just in time to witness the destruction. Iden dies from a blaster wound, and Zay takes the schematics back to the Resistance. A single First Order officer discovers Phasma lowered Starkiller Base's shields, so the captain hunts him down and executes him before he can tell anyone else. At the Resistance base, the final location of Luke Skywalker is discovered. Rey and Chewie set off to find him on Ahch-To. The Resistance quickly evacuates their base after being discovered by the First Order and are chased across the galaxy by Snoke's personal flagship. Most of the pilots of Black Squadron are sent to gather help for the Resistance in the Outer Rim. Luke refuses to train Rey or return to help, believing the galaxy is better off without the interference of the Jedi. Desperate and with no one else to turn to, she forges a strange mental connection with Kylo Ren and the two bond. Luke witnesses the two of them conversing through the Force and demands she leave. She does so and seeks Kylo out on Snoke's ship, believing he will return to the light side. He does kill Snoke, but wishes to shape the galaxy into his own vision rather than join her. Rey escapes and meets up with Chewie on the Falcon. Running out of fuel, the Resistance flees to Crate and takes shelter in the defenses that were set up so long ago. Kylo Ren leads an attack to wipe them out for good, but is suddenly confronted by his uncle. Luke buys the Resistance enough time to be rescued by Rey before Kylo realizes that he is only a projection in the Force. The effort of creating the illusion causes Luke to become one with the Force, but his example inspires the Resistance and the rest of the galaxy to stand and fight against the First Order. United on the Millennium Falcon, Finn, Poe, and Rey swap stories until Poe hears word from his fellow Black Squadron pilots. They have become pinned down after a First Order attack, and Poe races off to rescue them. He is successful and returns to General Organa's location, hiding on the planet Ryloth with some old allies. They begin to gather what few leaders of the rebellion remain so they can rebuild and continue the fight against the First Order, who takes control of many of the major systems of the galaxy, including Corellia. Rey continues her training under the tutelage of Leia. On Batuu, Vi Marati and Cardinal, now known as Archex, work to set up a new Resistance base. They are discovered by the First Order, but Archex sacrifices his life to ensure the safety of his new friends. In need of repairs, the Falcon is taken to Batuu, where a notorious pirate named Hondo Ohnaka has set up a halfway legitimate shipyard. However, he uses the famous ship for smuggling jobs whenever he can. A smuggler stumbles across C-3PO and R2-D2 on Batuu and helps them reunite with the rest of the Resistance and their growing base. They also join forces with Hondo and other citizens of Batuu in destroying a First Order facility. The First Order continues the hunt on the planet's main city, Black Spire Outpost. Two of the planet's young residents get wrapped up in the battle and realize they cannot simply sit and wait for the First Order to leave, but must instead rise up against their tyranny. The Halcyon celebrates its 200th anniversary on a voyage to Batuu. Along the way, it falls under attack from both the First Order and pirates. Kaz and the citizens of the Colossus also remain on the run from the First Order, who want to take control of their refueling station, but the citizens of the platform rally to stand against their pursuers and defeat them. Rey accompanies Leia on a mission to Mon Cala, hoping to recruit their old rebellion allies to their cause, but the First Order destroys any planet that provides aid to the Resistance and attacks the Mon Calamari. Aftab Akbar, the son of the late Admiral, joins the Resistance and provides a handful of new ships for their fleet. Meanwhile, Finn and Poe are attacked by bounty hunters seeking to cash in on high-value Resistance targets. The bounty hunters are thwarted, and then they head to Batuu on a job for Dok-Ondar, a shady antiquities dealer. He pits the mercenaries against the First Order to secure an ancient Sith sword he's been after for years. While Rey, Rose, and Poe are off gathering supplies for their friends, they pick up a distress beacon from a less technologically advanced species that is under siege from the First Order. They offer their assistance and remove the First Order's presence. With his fleet finally ready, Palpatine makes his survival known to the galaxy. Fearing any threat to his power, Kylo Ren seeks to turn Rey to the dark side so that they can destroy the Emperor once and for all. Rey resists and then mortally wounds him during a duel when he senses the death of his mother. With her last bit of strength, Leia reaches out to her son in an act of love. Full of guilt, Rey heals Kylo, and the acts of compassion finally turn him back to the light side. He joins Rey in a fight against the Emperor alongside not only the Resistance, but the entire galaxy, who has finally had enough of galactic oppression. The fleet is destroyed and the Emperor is killed, but Rey also falls. Ben then sacrifices his life to bring her back. Rey buries the lightsabers of Luke and Leia on Tatooine, and she rejects her family name of Palpatine, choosing instead to be known as a Skywalker. As of right now, May 4th, 2022, that's the broad story of nearly every canon Star Wars movie, series, video game, book, comic arc, and audio drama. Some of the dates, especially early on, are rough estimates, and obviously I couldn't include every short story and little detail because this video is long enough as it is, but my hope is that you now have a basic understanding of where all the major pieces fit into the canon timeline, and maybe you're interested in picking up some of those stories outside of the films to experience for yourself. But if I omitted something you think is important to note, please put it in the comments below. Since this is my yearly tradition, I'll be looking to improve upon it next year. If you're new to the channel, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram, and consider checking out our Patreon page. As always, thanks for watching, happy Star Wars Day, and may the Force be with you.